All right, I think we're live. Can everybody see and hear me? Sweet. All right, so this is new to me. Never gone live on YouTube before, so if it seems awkward, it's because it is. Working off my laptop here with a webcam, and we're going to do the best we can. I've got my awesome daughter. She's going to be trying to position the laptop for me, and my lovely wife. She's dialed in. So if you guys are asking questions, she's going to be talking to my ear, so I look like I'm looking off in space for a minute. That's probably why. Before we get started, I'll say I really appreciate Jamie and Carl for inviting me to do this. This is the first time, like I said, it should be fun. I'm going to try and do a small hollow form in the time we have. I'm not quite sure we'll get there, but because it's live, I had to have the backup plan, backup plan, backup plan. So we're going to start off with this piece of burl. I got this from Worldwide Burl a little while back. I've already went ahead and glued a tenon on it, or what's going to be a tenon. And I'm a big fan, especially when I have burl and I'm dealing with a limited amount. I feel like it's kind of precious. So I tend to glue a tenon on the bottom instead of making a tenon out of the burl itself, because I feel like I'm just wasting that. I glued this on a few hours ago. Hopefully it holds up. If not, I have a backup to the backup and then one after there. In case we don't get through this today, I'll give you some examples real quick. I'm kind of, I wouldn't say a jack of all trades, but I like to try a bunch of everything. So there's no real signature for me. I don't do one thing all the time. Maybe it's ADD, I don't know. But if I see something that is, oh, I see Carl, make Carl Mr. Moderator for me. He can give me a hand here. Great, okay. So for me, it's I'll turn skateboards for a while, and then I'll kind of get bored on that, and then I'll go off and do something else. But recently, I started doing hollow forms, and I'm really digging them. I won't claim to be an expert at anything, but I'll try to help people. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I can tell you what hasn't worked for me or what has worked better for me. But obviously, I would encourage people to go out and look at all sorts of different, either Instagram or YouTube, and watch videos. There's some masters out there, and I'm a hobbyist trying to get there. So this is one I turned a while back. We're going to deal with something a lot smaller today. Tend to do a lot with resin too. I didn't feel like we had time today to do resin casting and try and turn all that too. So we're going to go all natural. Okay, it's going to be not too loud, but it is hot in here. I don't have the fan on, so if I'm sweating, it's not really nerves. It's that it's swampy in here. But I don't know how well I'm able to hear any questions or hear anybody talking to me about questions while I'm turning. So like I said, I have this thing in my ear. I'll listen. If there's a question that I can stop and answer, I'll stop doing what I'm doing and answering. But we'll go ahead and get started. I'm also a big fan of the worm screw. I know some people don't trust them, and they use face plates quite a bit. I happen to like the worm screw. It hasn't really failed me yet, and I probably just jinxed myself by saying that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn that tenon on the bottom. Like I said, I glued it a few hours ago. I hope it holds. I think we should have plenty of time. And there were some punky spots, some real dry spots on this burl. It's pretty aged and dry, so I went ahead and soaked it in some CA prior to this, so hopefully that won't cause me any problems. You'll see me switch back and forth. I like to use carbide. I like to use traditional, and I just started using traditional tools this year, so you won't see any expert techniques there. But I kind of, like I said, I just, whatever tool works and whatever I feel like the situation needs, that's what I'm going to go for. And I normally wear my air shield, my Trend Air Shield Pro, but I'm going to wear a normal just face shield today. This is one of my favorite tools. If you can hear me, that angle, this is a simple wood tool. That angle there helps me a lot with turning tendons, so I'll tend to use the carbide a lot for my tendons. And then I never trust my tenon size, so I always double check it to make sure that I don't go too big or too far. It's just a habit. I'm sure some people can just see it and know it. Go more. All right, that should be good for my tenon. Now I'm just going to start cleaning up, getting it round, and start giving me the general shape. A little bit more. I'm really curious how these voids, if you can see them at all. Hey, can you move over here a little bit and see if we can get a better picture of the voids? Because that light's shining right on. There, is that better without the light? All right. I'm curious how these voids are going to play into this. I don't think we're going to explode, but my hopes are that it's going to create some really cool look on the final piece. I like to call them self-ejecting shavings. So while it's turning more, coring out the inside, hopefully it'll be spitting some shavings out. All right. All right. So Jim Marks, hey buddy. Sounds like you got a question about grain orientation. I don't know if there's typically a, hey, here's a rule of thumb. And keep in mind, everything I do has been, I wouldn't even say self-taught. It's just trial and error. I'm really good at making mistakes. I'll say that. And I think it's a kind of the fail and fail fast and try again. I have not seen a, hey, here's the best way for grain orientation on a burl, because all that grain is going in so many different directions that I just look for the attractiveness. So it's got like this piece actually had a lot of eyes. When I was looking at it, the top part, and I'll show you when I take it off the worm screw, the top part had a lot of cool eyes. So I chose that. The way that I got the piece to begin with dictated that it was going to be, this was going to be vertical this way. There was no other orientation I could do to it. Other pieces, though, if I get just a big chunk of burl, I have turned it in probably obscure ways, but because either what I had in mind, I was going to cast it with resin or something. Well, I guess here's a good example. So this piece, if you're on my Instagram, you see me post it. Pretty proud of it. But this piece, the way it was oriented, I knew I was going to get the most because I had all the pins and needles. So I actually oriented it kind of at an angle so I would get more wood on one side and I could have resin on the other versus it just being spots of resin throughout. So I don't think that there's necessarily a way or the perfect way to do it. It's more what I think I'm going to get the most out of the piece and highlight. Unfortunately, the pins and needles on this one were on this side, but this side actually had some really cool too. So because of the way it was, this side was flat when I got it. I had the pins and needles over here. I chose this side, but I don't think I ever even showed that on Instagram. That the bottom of this piece was just awesome. So I know that's a long-winded answer, and it really wasn't an answer; it was a non-answer. But with burl, because of the wall, the different ways it's going, I just picked what I think is prettiest. All right, my wife's telling me in the old thing that everybody's telling me that they like the piece. I appreciate it. I'm pretty proud of that piece. Not because of my efforts, just because I just think it came out the way that burl was and mixed with the resin. I really lucked out on that one. So I'm really happy with that piece. But this one, I'm curious how this is going to be. If it flies off and hits me, we can all laugh about it later. I hope not. I think we should be okay. So I'm going to try and, I think the light's bothering it. From what I can tell, you can't see a whole lot. You might want to orient. Fia, can you orient over here so they might be able to see better what we're doing? And like I said, guys, my first, if this goes well, then maybe my wife will let me buy some web cameras. All right, we'll try it this way and see if this works. Now, I know I'm going the wrong way, but I'm going to do it because I'm just roughing this out. I'm just looking to see how we're holding up here with the cracks. I think we should be okay. All right. So my favorite is the kind of fat on the top and then real thin at the bottom. That tends to be the way, that's my go-to shape. I don't know why. That's what I seem to like the most. So I do want to leave enough room for those jaws to grab on and be flat. Matter of fact, I just saw Woodturners Worldwide post something earlier today about the importance of a tenon. So I want that to be a sharp edge on the inside. I need this surface flat so that those jaws fit clean on it. And I don't want to go all the way to the bottom, obviously, where it's hitting the bottom of the chuck jaw. So I'm going to stop here. When I flip it around, if we have time, hopefully I don't run out, I'm probably going to come past that a little bit more because I really want that foot to be small and I want the top part to be proportionate and what I think is attractive. And that's that rule of thirds. So if I can get the foot to be about a third, 1/3 of the whole, the top diameter, that'll be ideal for me. I don't know if I'll be able to do it because I need that tenon there, but we're going to try that. And I'm going to take off a little bit more of this tenon so we're not bottoming out on the chuck jaws. Okay, I also learned the hard way that if I don't index this again, so sometimes what I'll do is just slide this up and then put an index right there and make a mark for myself. Because when I flip it back around, I'm going to have some step jaws. And that's what I'm going to put inside that hole to hold it while I turn that tenon off. And if I don't index that, and then I go to put it on there and I'm trying to line it up with the what do you call it, the tailstock, it just gets swirly. So we're doing it my way. Index that bottom so you know how to reorient. So now we're just going to flip it around. While I'm doing this, is there any questions? All right. My wife just told me that. My wife just told me my son is watching and his friend from California is watching. My son just moved out this week, so that's a little bittersweet for those of you that have kids that left the house. You know how that goes. It's his first time away from home. Well, for me, anyways, living on his own. So it's been an interesting week for me. All right. I'm pretty sure I embarrassed him, but whatever. It is what it is. What lathe am I using? Well, I'm using the Nova Galaxy DVR. And I'll give you, I know that there's a lot of good lathes out there. A lot of people have strong opinions on them. Based on my budget and my experience, keep in mind that I've been turning for about 3.5 years. So my very first lathe was a Nova Comet, the small mini lathe. And that was, ironically, Carl's on here. And I'll share a quick funny story. I was gifted a piece of vase, and I don't know who the artist was. It was never signed. I believe my mother bought it for me at a boutique somewhere in the mountains. And I was sitting on the couch and I was looking at this thing, trying to figure out how somebody can make a vase out of wood. How do they get the inside out? And it was just like fascinating me. So I Googled and I hit YouTube, and obviously the first person I ran into was Mr. Jacobson. So I watched a bunch of Carl's videos. And I was in the tail end process of restoring a 66 F100 pickup truck. And I could either invest more money in it and replace the motor and all sorts of stupid stuff, or sell it. And I told myself I'm going to sell it, clean my garage out, and buy a lathe. So I bought a lathe, and that was the first lathe I bought. It was because of Carl Jacobson. So this is all your fault, Carl. And I bought that mini lathe. I used it for a year. I broke it 3 times, and I broke it. It was not poorly made. It was not a bad thing. I just was trying to get it to do things that it shouldn't do. I was overloading it. I was over tightening the tailstock and stripping the screw out because I was being too brutal with it. And every time I called Nova to tell them that I broke the lathe and asked them how much it's going to be for shipping me a new part or piece, they just said, "Don't worry about it. We'd rather have you turning." And I made it clear to them 3 times in a row, all the 3 times that I broke something, that it was my fault. And they just refused to charge me. They said they'd rather see me happy turning. Now, So when it came time to upgrade, I stuck with Nova. I love this lathe. I like how there's no pulleys and stuff to mess with. It's been good to me. I guess my only criticism would be if it had maybe a little bit more weight to it, but that's because I tend to put really uneven pieces on with resin and that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's been awesome. I love it. Okay, we're gonna try some more. Just churn up that edge. I'm going to come around the top here and just remove a bunch of material real quick. Definitely not final cut. Okay, I think we have a general shape we're going to go with. One of the things that I tend to do, or I wouldn't call it a mistake, it's a challenge, is I tend to try to make that shoulder real wide and high, and then forget that you've got to get the hollowing tool inside there and get up into that shoulder. So I've caused myself some grief a couple times doing that, but I found a piece on Amazon that was fairly inexpensive. that I think I can get into those corners and those shoulders. So I tend to do that a lot, but really what I should be doing is probably sloping that more so I'm not having to get as aggressive and get back into that top shoulder. But I like the look. It's just the way I like it. All right, so what I'm doing is leaving just a little bit of here. I like to see a lip. I'm not quite sure yet how much of a diameter I'm going to make that hole in proportion to this. I know I need to make it at least large enough so I can fit these step jaws inside there. So it might be a little bit larger than I typically would like given the size of the piece, but that's the limitations because of the jaws I have. Okay. I'm going to try and tighten up some of this shoulder real quick. I'm a stickler for the tailstock. I like to use it when I can. Probably don't use it half the time, but I do anyway. I'm going to do some scraping cuts because that's what I like to do. Or I may even switch over to some carbide just because I still feel like I get a little bit more control sometimes with carbide in terms of my shape. And that's just because of experience or what I'm used to. But I'm still working on the gouge. We'll get there. We'll do it the other way. I am getting some tear out over here, and that's partly probably me, and partly it's just super dry and a little bit punky in some areas, but we'll make do. All right. I would round this over a little bit more, but given time, and I kind of like that bark inclusion's in there. I don't want to get too far past it because it opens up inside there. And I think I like the line better than just having a big hole there. There's a nice inclusion over here. All right, I'm going to just hit it real quick with some sandpaper to see what it looks like. And I'll probably mist it with a little bit of alcohol just because I want to see what the grain's looking like. And that's just because I'm impatient. I love this thing. I use this 24/7. My go-to. One of the things I don't like doing is sanding anything unless it's with my bowl sander. So anytime somebody asks me to make something out of flatwood, I usually turn them down and tell them no. And that's simply because I hate sanding. All right. We do have a little bit of punky area here, but I think it's gonna be okay. It just gives it that rustic look. And plus sometimes when I sand it too, it shows me where I have like any high spots or some tool marks. I think we're okay given time. If it was just me sitting here putzing around, I probably would spend an hour just messing with it to get it the way I want it to be. But we're gonna go through this pretty quick. Yeah, can you do me a favor and just see if you can get a close up with this? And I'm gonna mist it with some alcohol so we can see some grain. They can see what I'm talking about with the bark inclusion.
Can you see?
Yep. All right, we think we're good there, yeah? So maybe I'll turn the light off, we'll get a better view. All right, so that's the bark inclusions I'm talking about. If I go past here and kind of bring that shoulder down, I think I'm just gonna have a hole, all these in here too, that one. So we'll see how they look. But this is what that's the part I get excited about. There. And I just use alcohol to raise that grain up, show me what it's gonna look like. And also it'll show me if there's any visible tool marks. But I'm just impatient. I always want to see what it's going to look like while I'm doing it. All right, cool. Let's see if we're back on. All right. Everybody's seeing okay? I'll look at the comments real quick. Can everybody see what's going on okay? I apologize. I wish I had a cool setup where we could do a downward view and all that kind of fun stuff, but we are what we are for now. All right. I think we're okay for now. All right. So what I'm going to do now is, hold on, my wife's trying to talk to me. What are you saying, huh? Nope. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to core this out. I usually use a Forstner bit and get down to my depth and take out as much of that as possible without having to sit there and turn away all the inside. One thing I did not do was set myself up ahead of time with the right Forstner bit. So we're going with this one. I think we're okay. It's already got the extension on it. Usually what I'll do is eyeball it and see where the bottom is, kind of where I want to be. I think it's going to be somewhere just past here. I'll turn away whatever I need to at the foot on the inside. But this would give me a lot of material out of the way quickly. I'll try to get that out of the way. I need to be able to see, but you guys need to be able to see too. Okay. Somebody asked if I have any preference to Forstner bit brands. I would say based on budget, no. I typically buy off of Amazon because it's not way out in the country. For those of you that told me you're calling stuff, I'm just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, so it's not like I'm way far out there, but I'm kind of a homebody. I hate to leave the house. So I usually order things off Amazon. I think, what is it? Fruit? What's the brand name? FRE, whatever. I like theirs, but I got a diamond card and some oil a while back also off Amazon. And I usually sharpen my Forstner bits and try to keep them sharp. I'm probably not as often as I should, but I do. So I may come back after I hollow this out and kind of thin up this lip a little bit. That looks a little chunky to me, but then again, it may suit the piece, so I'm just going to leave it for now. I'm going to start hollowing the inside, and then we'll try and clean it up. How am I looking on time? 3:30, so 30 minutes. I'm not sure we're going to get the whole thing hollowed out in 30 minutes, but we're going to try. All right, I'm going to need to move back the camera for a second so I'm taking the tailstock off and I'm putting on the stabilizer for the hollowing. I use Simple Wood Tools hollowing setup. It has been good to me. Again, I'm in this about 3.5, almost 4 years now. Just started hollowing probably late last year. And it is a great setup to get started with. So really nothing negative about it in that aspect. But as with all things, you get into it, you spend a couple $100, and then all of a sudden you realize that you really want more, and you really need to spend a couple. I don't know. My wife's on the thing, so I'll say a couple $100 more. But I would like to get at some point. I'll probably get the Bosch hollowing or the John Jordan hollowing. But for now, given my budget and given what's going on with COVID and all that kind of fun stuff, I'm using the simple hollowing tools. And that's all carbide inserts. I'm going to scoot this back real quick so I can get my tailstock off and then get that simple wood on there. So this is his setup. Great guy, family-owned company. It's been good to me. You know, limitations are tool options. You really only kind of have the straight, a swan neck, and that's pretty much it. So getting back into tight shoulders or up high on a bigger piece, this would not really work. But for the money, with the stabilizer and the laser so I can see actually where I'm at inside the piece, it was a good investment to get started to see if you really like doing any kind of hollow. And actually, if I'm being honest, this was a gift now that I think about it. So I think my mom's watching too. Hi, Mom. Thank you for this. I think this was a gift from her. So I lied. It wasn't my investment. It was a gift, I think a holiday gift. All right. So it looks like it's there. Get set up here. I'm going to start off with that swan neck tool. Because of the size of this piece, I'm going to be able to get in there no problem. If it was a large piece, getting around that bend and getting back up into a shoulder way back here with that bend, you're going to be at a low. So I found this one on Amazon. You know, the idea was that this cutter head on this carbide here was directly in line with the tool, which is great. But getting back up into the corners, you can't get past that opening on that straight bar. So I needed one that was not in line. It does have drawbacks to it. It will slip, it'll move, that kind of thing. But it is what it is with the setup I'm using. Hopefully, once I upgrade to the higher end hollowing tools, this would be a non-discussion. Any questions while I'm doing the setup? This won't take me too long, but yeah, go ahead. And what I'm doing here is I'm positioning the laser at the very tip of this carbide cutter. It's just a round carbide. I'm not really measuring depth, and I'm not measuring off the tip to know how deep I want to go. I'm going to do that by touch, but I just want to know where that head, the tip of the cutter is when I'm looking at it externally. I'm not going to use it for thickness. I just want to make sure I'm not going to go through the outside or something stupid because I'm not paying attention. All right. Okay. All right. Give me a little more stretch here, lock it down. Okay, I think we're good. I should have said too, I poured out with the Forstner bit at 500, but depending on the piece, if it's really unstable or it's half resin, half wood, sometimes I'm turning the whole piece no higher than 600, 700 RPMs, just because they can't handle it. This is a small piece. I'm at 1,000 right now. I may even crank it up once I see how it feels. I was turning. Now that I think about it, this is probably really boring to watch. But what I think I'm going to do is I want to see maybe if Sophia, I wonder if you can get over at this angle here, like behind me, and see if we can get a better shot of what I'm doing. And then, given time, if it were me watching this, I'm not sure I'd want to watch somebody just sit there and hollow something out for 15, 20 minutes. So I'll probably hollow out a little bit more. We can talk about what this is doing and how I'm doing it for a minute or two if we need to. But I'll probably just finish the outside and show you my finishing technique, how I do it. It's not the right way, it's not the wrong way, it's just my way. And it's the way that I've found some good results. I'd love to hear and see other people's techniques too, because I'm learning something new every day. That's the cool part about, always being an amateur is you're always learning something new. So I'll probably fast forward, meaning we'll do a little bit real quick, and then I'll do my finishing process, and then we can answer some questions. And I'll haul this out later. I'll throw it up on Instagram or whatever. But I'm just thinking if it were me, watching somebody sit there and do the same thing over and over again for 20 minutes is going to be boring. So let's see if we can pull this back here and you get a different viewpoint of what I'm doing. You can see the laser and all that for people that are interested in getting hollowing. You can see what I see and then make a decision on, hey, is this something I want to try? Or all right. So pardon me, guys, while I move some things around real quick. And see, this is actually the laptop is up on my rolling cart that holds my planer because this is just how we're rolling today. Okay, let's see if that works. I think that should be good. Everybody good with that? I think we're going to go with it. So you can see the laser here. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up on camera. You can see the laser here. From the top view, I'm not even a third into it yet. The benefit, now there are some people that hollow 100% without any kind of stabilizer. They build their own tools, really long tools. There's a lot of great artists that do that. I'm not there yet. I like using the stabilizer. I'm not a totally instant gratification guy, but I kind of like starting a project, getting it done within 2 days type scenario. I like to use the tools that get the job done right and for me. But as I progress and learn more, I may be trying to build my own hollowing tools and really long handles and sitting on the edge of the lathe doing that. But for me, this has worked. It's a great way to get started and then to see if you really like it. I didn't know when I first got into turning, I was doing pens. I still do bottle stoppers because that's fun for me. But I think I started off doing pens, pepper mills. I still love pepper mills for some reason. I have a weird obsession with them. But I looked at hollow forms and I was like, yeah, that's cool. I don't know if I was intimidated by it or what, but I'm not sure I'll ever do that. And now every time I turn something, I'm thinking, oh, I want to make a hollow form. So if you're at that stage and you're interested in this stuff, this might be a good way to get started. See if you like it. I can tell we broke through one of the voids because I can see chips ejecting off the side now. And I'm probably turning a little too fast or getting some smoke, but we're still safe. We're good. So one of my tips on this would be obviously on a big vase when you're 9 inches out. I have one in the house. I think if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it. It's got the glow in the dark lime green and the maple burl. that piece was pretty deep. So this piece really won't matter because I'm not going out too far. But on those bigger, deeper pieces, for those that haven't gone this path yet, for those of you that do hollow forms, you know exactly what I mean. I like to leave as much meat inside the piece as possible, and just work on that top part, get everything exactly where I want it, same thickness, wall thickness, get around that shoulder, that before I even start hollowing way down inside, because I need that strength and that meat on the bottom. Because once we get past this, if I were to haul a big piece all the way out, you're going to get some flex at the front end. And if you're trying to clean up a lip or trying to clean up the inside of that shoulder or something up here, if it's way out here and and you've cleared out a lot of material, you're going to get some flex, and it's not going to be pretty. Don't ask me how I know. So this piece, it really won't matter because I don't have a whole lot there. Maybe the voids might make it a little bit interesting in terms of integrity or the strength of the wood. But I'm going to go ahead and just hollow out this part right here up in the shoulder, probably to here, so we can see some chips fly because that'll be fun. And then I'll just move on to finishing the exterior and see what we can do about some of this tear out. But I think that's just going to be punky, and it is what it is. Maybe if I had more time or more thought ahead of time, I may have stabilized this, but I kind of like that natural look. It doesn't always bother me seeing punky parts on wood because it's natural. All right, enough jabber. Now, if it wasn't for some of the chips ejecting out through the voids, this thing would be more than filled with chips. And my favorite part is blowing those chips out, to be honest with you. So we're going to do a little bit of that now. All right. Doing all right? Any questions? All right. So my thickness of top is, we're probably looking at about, I don't know, maybe an eighth right now. Wall thickness, I still have a little ways to go to even it out. Like I said, I'll get the top done. We'll do finishing, and then we'll wrap up probably. All right, so we're dead on. I don't use a tool, any kind of calipers or anything to measure. I literally just use my fingertips. I can feel where my finger is. I can feel the thickness, obviously. I've got a little bit of meat up here towards the face, right near the opening, that I probably need to take out. But as far as that shoulder right there, that curve, I've got even thickness wall here to here. And we're probably talking, I don't know, maybe 3/16. Or my buddy Jimmy, who's probably watching, likes to make fun of me because I call them little marks. We got 3 little marks. Because he and I were building a deck one day, and I really wasn't good at measuring, so I would say it was 5 and 3 little marks. And to this day, probably 15 years later, we still laugh about it. Well, he still laughs at me for it. Okay, I'm going to stop there on that piece. You can see where we're at here in terms of hollowing. My depth, I've stopped right about here. So I haven't thinned out on this side here. But you can kind of see, I don't know, Sophia, you want to grab the camera and pull it up close? You can see my wall thickness. All right, I'm getting word from, we got about 10 minutes left. All right, so is that showing up if I take this off? Okay, so I've stopped right about here, but you can kind of see here, especially if I put the camera in there, you can see where I'm at in terms of wall thickness here, the evenness. We'll move over here real quick on that shoulder right there, around the front, right there. So you can see what we're looking at there. All right. Big props to my daughter for being a cameraman and actually, or camera woman, and actually using a laptop as a camera. I was unaware that you need to have a bunch of, I think it's 1,000 YouTube followers to go mobile live. So we're making do with what we got. Okay, I'm going to clean up this lip up front a little bit and thin it out because I think it's going to look better that way. And then I'm going to sand and try and get a finish on real quick before time runs out. You want to move, while I'm doing it, you want to move back over on the other side? You rock, thank you. All right, I think I like that better. Everybody see his stuff on the way? We're good. All right. I'm going to sand. And I do sand the inside as far as I can usually. I have seen some interesting things that people have made to actually sand the inside of these. And I don't like having that raw, unfinished edge inside, but at some point, I just can't get my fat, porky fingers down in there. So I sand as far as I can reach. But if anybody's got great tips, tricks, knows a affordable tool for sanding the inside for OCD people like myself that want it to be sanded, I'd appreciate it. All right, so I start off my sanding routine is quick and dirty for the most part. I start off with 180, I go to 240, then 320, then 400, and if it's resin, I usually go to 600, and then I switch over to doing wet sanding with micro mesh. But on natural wood pieces, especially burl, I usually sand up to 400. I might go to 6 on this one just for fun. I'm a big fan of the Abernet. They just seem to last a lot longer to me. I can clear the dust out pretty quick on them too. So I use the Abernet discs. They're just worth it to me. I'm probably sanding too high. I do sand forward and reverse, not every grit. I usually maybe start off at the 180 and I'll sand forward and reverse if it's got a lot of, I don't know, nubs that I didn't knock down or something of that nature. I'm never going to say that I'm perfect at this and my pieces don't need sanding. They always need sanding, but sometimes it needs more sanding on some pieces than others. You guys are wood turners on here. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So what I'll do is usually I'll stop at 320. What brand of sander is this? I don't know. I got it off Amazon. I had the Sorby sander, and maybe it's me, but I wore out bearings on 3 of those. And again, maybe it's me. Maybe I was too aggressive. Maybe I'm pushing too hard and I'm burning it up. But I got this off Amazon. I think it's not a Grizzly, but I think Grizzly sells it too. And this thing has been a beast. It's heavy. It's good weight. I don't have arthritis or anything like that, but if I'm doing something tedious, like hand sanding, which is another one I hate hand sanding, or even using the palm sander, my hand either cramps up or gets numb, and I hate it. So all these things sound silly, but using this bowl sander with that padded handle on it and sanding on the lathe versus trying to hand sand, to me, is a lifesaver. If I find out what brand this is, I will see if I can go back and post it or put it on my Instagram or something like that. But I love these things. And this thing's been a beast. It hasn't broken down on me yet. The bearings are intact. It's heavyweight. So what I like to do is I'm a big fan of the Mylan sanding sealer. I just am. Somebody introduced it to me, I don't know, 2 years ago. All right, 2 years ago. And I love this stuff. Probably use too much of it. But so I always stop at around 320. I'll put on some sanding sealer. This will dry super fast. I'm not worried about our time on that. And this also obviously stiffens up some of those punky areas too, but just not enough, I think, for turning. And you can kind of see if maybe if I turn the light off. Sophia, can we bring up close again? I'm sorry. My daughter's a trooper. No. Thank you. All right. Can we see the grain on that at all? So that sanding seal obviously helps pop that grain out. All right. So does the name Handy, H-A-D, what was it? H-A-N-D-I? I don't know. Actually, Mark from Broken Tree Woodworks, if you are on, I know you're the one that turned me on to the sander, and you found it. If you have the link for it on Amazon, or you remember what it is, because I think you have the same one, would you post that in the comments? And if you're not on, I'm talking to myself, Mark, I feel stupid, but I think you are on. Okay, so now it's dry already. I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go to 400. I would take, all right, I got 5 minutes. I would take a lot longer on this process than I'm doing today. I would probably go over it multiple times and really get my finish down pat. But given my 5-minute warning, we're going to kind of go through this. When I'm doing this, I'm always trying to just stay one fluid motion. So I might start at the top like this, and I'll wrap the bottom, and I'll stay with that pressure on this side and move towards the back. If I can make that turn coming from the bottom, I'll try that too. Staying on it one elbow and just get a consistent sand. All right, so now we'll call it essentially sanded. I usually try and blow. All right, so this should be interesting. I wanted to show, if you guys always see me on Instagram, I'll say the finish is shine juice. If you haven't done shine juice before, I think a gentleman by the name of Captain Eddie, it's on his YouTube anyways. This is from years ago when I first started watching wood turning videos. It's equal parts of bowl of linseed oil, denatured alcohol, and shellac. And 9 times out of 10, if it's not a food safe thing, this is my go-to finish. I don't know how we're going to do with these voids. It may be pulling some paper towels from me, but we got 3 minutes, so I'm just going to do the face. So what you do is you just put a lot of pressure on it, heat it up to where it's almost burning your fingers. I have burnt my fingertips quite a bit doing this sometimes. And just let that build up. I'll put on 5 or 6 coats sometimes, and that gives me a real nice shine. I wanted to show this for the demo. Had it not been demo and all that stuff, I probably would have done a Danish oil finish on this. But if you can kind of see already that shine that's building up there, it's giving me a real kind of, not even satin, but a high gloss finish. And I'll keep doing that a couple more times and get it shiny. When I finish this, I'll throw up on Instagram. You'll see what the finished product was. We're about out of time, so I'm going to stop there and see if I can answer any questions. Carl, you found that tool. I appreciate that. Yep, and Mark said that's the one. So if you guys see Carl's comment, that's that bowl sander. Zach, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And by the way, Zach's coming up later. Zach, I've learned so much from him on resin casting. Anytime somebody messages me and says, hey, how do you do this on resin casting? I always point them to a Zach video. And if you guys have been on all day, that's awesome. If you're just joining because I was beating you up on social media about coming to the live demo, stick around. And if you go to virtuallycrafty.com, there's a list of all the people that are demoing today. Daryl's coming up behind me from Dreadnought Workshop, and he does some awesome things. He's been doing some hollow forms as well. I don't know what he's doing today, so I don't want to steal any thunder for him, but phenomenal turner, great guy. Go check out his video that's starting right after mine. And I think we are about, 2 minutes left, I think. All right. Oh, I just scrolled by accident. What was this question?
Where did you get the extender?
Where did I get the extender? For the Forstner bit, I'm guessing? I got that off Amazon too. Pretty much anything you see. I tend to, the mail lady and I used to have a joke that if Amazon package didn't show up 3 days in a row, she needed to call the police because something was probably wrong with me and I was incapacitated somewhere in the house. So I tend to buy a lot off Amazon. All right. Any other questions? Obviously, I couldn't read all the comments while I was doing this. I appreciate my wife and daughter for really helping me. Again, thanks, Jamie and Carl, for inviting me to do this. Hopefully, we can do it again. I'm going to try and get better. Oh, somebody wants to see the hollow form?
Yes, the blue resin.
The blue or the green?
The blue.
This one? Oh, the green. Well, here, somebody asked to see these. Alumilite resin and Burl. Burl was from Worldwide Burl. On Instagram, he does auctions. And they're on my Instagram. Soko Joko on Instagram. If you're just seeing this for the first time and you want to see my work, check it out over there. That's where I tend to post a lot. And given my, we'll call it newbiness to YouTube today, I think I'm going to spend some more time on YouTube. I think I'm going to do some quick demos, put them up on how I do certain things for somebody if they're curious. All right, guys, I got 1 minute left. I'm not going to kill your time. I'm going to wrap up. Go check out Daryl, please. Awesome guy, great turner. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me. I know it wasn't ideal with the laptop, but hey, it worked, and we got through it. So I appreciate it. Have a great one.